Welcome back. This episode is about parallel parenting. So, what is parallel parenting? Basically, parallel parenting is the idea that you and the other parent on separate tracks. You can think of them as two railroad tracks that do not cross because there is a boundary in between them. Now, when we talk about boundaries, a lot of people assume that means telling the other person a set of rules of what they can and cannot do. And if they violate these rules, they have crossed the boundary. That is not the way parallel parenting works best when actually done. When exercising boundaries, these are about your personal boundaries and rules and expectations you set on yourself, whether or not the other person actually adheres to those boundaries. If you are in Texas and you have a divorce with children, or you have a suit affecting the parent-child relationship, which is also known as a SAPSR, then you will have a portion of your order that is a parenting plan. Now, this parenting plan actually is designed to be a parallel parenting plan, and that you both parents, if the parents are the managing conservators, have a certain set of rights and duties. In some cases, you may share some of those rights and duties, such as the right to information about what's happening at school, the right to medical information, the right to take the child to the doctor, typically the right for both parents to consent to invasive medical treatment. There are a lot of different rights, and with those rights being equal rights, they are parallel in that the two parents do not have to discuss on every single point and decision that they make when the child is in their possession. Now, for a lot of parents, that's super scary because you want to be involved. You want to know what decisions they're making. You want to know what's happening in the other parent's house. And with that meme we have going on, who all over there, you want to know who's at the other house, what they're doing, what they're saying, what's happening when the child is out of your control. That is not parallel parenting. There are 5 key takeaways I want you to take away from parallel parenting. The first being to lower your expectations. If you are the person that considers themselves to be the higher functioning person, the person with more insight, the person with more self-control, then this job is for you. Your job is to lower your expectations of the other person. Do not expect them to operate with the same level of respect in the way they communicate, with the same level of responsibility and accountability, and with the same level of control of their tone, meaning that they speak to you in a respectful manner, not yelling, not being sarcastic, not blowing you off, or just flat out ignoring you when you speak. Do not expect them to treat you the way that you are modeling for your children how to treat another person, how to carry yourself. Number 2, it is a good idea with parallel parenting to communicate in writing as much as possible. A lot of parents will use some of the different apps that are out there for you to communicate through that app, in which you can't delete the messages and it's easier to keep track of the conversation. So communicating in writing is tip number 2. Tip number 3 is to also, now this is with your boundaries, to let the other parent know that you will only be responding to messages in the app. If they email you, that you will not be responding to email, but if you do still choose to use email or text messaging, that you will respond at a certain time or within a certain amount of time. So if your time is between the hours of 3 and 4 p.m. or within 24 hours, you can make those your personal boundaries that you communicate to the other parent about when and where you will be responding to their written communication. So that is the next tip, written communication, and communicating when and where and how you will be responding to that written communication. That tip actually dovetails into the next tip, which is sort of like a sub bullet point, and that is to respond only to the things that really require a response. Now, a lot of us, myself included, a lot of the time, will get defensive when someone attacks us verbally and makes accusations or mischaracterizes us. That is not what you do with parallel parenting. With parallel parenting, you practice a bit of gray rocking and self-control and only responding to the part of the conversation that actually requires a response. For instance, if little Sally has baseball practice or softball practice, whatever practice it is, and her practice starts at 4 p.m. and you can't get there until a certain time, and the other parent asks you to go at a certain time and pick her up from practice, but then they also throw in, and don't be late because you're always late, and I know you think your job is more important than my job, and some other type of insults or mischaracterizations. Don't respond to that part. Respond to, I can be there at 4, I can be there at 3, I cannot be there at 4, I cannot be there at 3. I've made other arrangements for another competent adult to pick her up or drop her off. You respond to the part of the conversation that requires a response. And to the other part, if you really just can't resist ignoring it, say, and you know that's not true, or I disagree with your characterization, and leave it at that. Don't go and say, well, you're this and that, and you did that. And like, that's just not necessary and not a part of parallel parenting. If you're going to keep yourself on a parallel track, not crossing, and that also means not crossing, not letting your emotions cross over into that line, because now you are no longer ideally in an emotional attachment with that person. You are now only operating as co-parents with that person, and your job, if you are the one who wants to parallel parent, if they are not in agreement with it, your job is to keep yourself on your track. Next, the next tip is to have clear expectations for your pickup and drop off of the children. In your divorce decree or your SAPSER, there should be a section, if you're in Texas, that defines when and where the children are picked up and dropped off when the exchanges occur. Make sure that is super clear, super crisp. If you need to add additional details that are not in the standard language from a standard possession order, then do so and ask the court to order those specific details. These exchanges should not go on for 5 and 10 minutes. They are ideally very quick, where the child gets out of the car, or if they are of walking age, I mean, they walk early, sometimes 10 months, but you know what I mean, where the child gets out of the car and goes from your possession to the other parent's possession. Or if you're exchanging at home, same thing. This is not the time for you to rehash the relationship and to tell the other parent about all the things they're doing wrong or you're doing wrong. It's very limited. If the children are still in diapers, then it's when did they last eat? When did they last poop? Have they had enough water? What are their snacks? That's the type of conversation that you have. And that is also ideally done through the app or in writing. The final tip with parallel parenting is to make sure that you are following what you have been ordered to do, or what you have agreed to do in mediation, or what you have agreed to do otherwise with the parent since starting your divorce or your SAPSER case. Focus on holding yourself accountable, following the expectations that you have agreed to, and not bad-mouthing the other parent. This includes little sly comments like, "Mommy or Daddy is so silly." We don't talk about them like that anymore, because this also puts the children in the middle. We don't want to put the children in the middle of the conflict between the parents, because that's not fair to the children. Even when we may think we're not doing that, we are. So following the orders and also not bad-mouthing the other parent, even in those passive-aggressive ways that someone could pass off as just joking or just being silly. Those are not respectful of yourself, because I would say those are beneath you. And that is not respectful of the children, because it makes the children feel uncomfortable when those types of comments are made in their presence. So this episode has been about parallel parenting. For more parallel parenting information, please submit questions and I will answer those as soon as I am able to. You guys have a great day.